Hi guys, today we will be looking at how we conduct welfare analysis to figure out the impact on consumers and producers when there are price controls imposed. Specifically, we will be looking at the situation whereby the government imposes a price floor. Okay, let's begin. First, let's remember that in the free market, prices actually act as signals for resources to be allocated efficiently, and this maximizes consumer and producer welfare. In terms of consumer and producer surplus, we can also see that this is maximized in the free market. So in the diagram in front of you right now, how do we represent consumer and producer surplus? Consumer surplus is actually represented by this yellow triangle because consumer surplus is defined as the difference between the maximum price that they are willing and able to pay, which is actually given by the demand curve, and the price that consumers have actually paid, which is given by the market equilibrium price, price P. So since the difference denotes consumer surplus, this means that the yellow triangle must represent consumer surplus. Similarly, for producer surplus, this is given by the pink triangle because producer surplus is defined as the difference between the minimum price that producers are willing and able to accept, which is given by the supply curve, and the price that producers have actually accepted, which is given by the market equilibrium price, price P. So again, since the difference denotes producer surplus, this means that the pink triangle represents producer surplus. Now, in the absence of any government intervention, you notice that in this case, consumer and producer surplus are at its maximum. But what happens when the government imposes a minimum price, meaning a price floor? A price floor, since it is a minimum price, means that prices cannot be lower than this minimum price. This means that the price floor must be set above the market equilibrium price. So in this case, with this price floor imposed, you notice that quantity demanded would have fallen to QD, whereas quantity supplied would have increased to QS. Since quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded, this means that there is a surplus. Now, in this market with the price floor imposed, what is the final quantity that is being traded? It is actually QD. Only QD is traded in the market. How do we know whether this price floor is good for consumers or good for producers? We can analyze the impact on consumers and producers by looking at the changes in consumer and producer surplus. We can start with consumer surplus first. For consumer surplus, we notice that for consumers, this surplus would have fallen to the smaller yellow triangle. Now, why is that the case? This is because the price floor actually raises prices for consumers. For every unit that consumers buy, they actually have to pay a higher price, PF. And at the same time, they are buying fewer units up to QD. So therefore, consumer surplus is now lower by the areas of A and B. What about producer surplus then? The analysis on producer surplus is actually more complicated because while producers are receiving a higher price for every unit that they sell, PF, they are at the same time selling fewer units. So producer surplus actually changes from this pink triangle to the pink trapezium. Now we notice that part of the consumer surplus that was lost, area A, is now transferred to producers. Producers got this area A as part of their new producer surplus. But at the same time, producer surplus also lost area C as compared to before. So in total, this market actually suffers a total welfare loss of both areas B and C, and this welfare loss is now shaded as a shaded triangle. So in a nutshell, we see that a price floor, while technically meant to protect producers, this actually results in an inefficient allocation of resources as well as a welfare loss for both consumers and producers. We can do this same analysis with another price control, for example, a price ceiling. For a price ceiling, we can analyze the impacts on consumers and producers in very much the same way. You should try this out on your own. So when do we use these diagrams and when do we analyze the impact of price controls on consumers and producers? Very simply put, you use these diagrams when you want to analyze the impacts of price control on consumers and producers. Okay, that's the end of this video. Good luck for your mid-year exams. I'll now see you in the next video.